Helen of Troy, the face that launched 1,000 ships. Whether it's a myth or based on a real person, it doesn't really matter because she represents a type of girl that is very much true. She was an it girl. Jazz hands. A young, attractive female with an enthralling personality to match. Men will fall on their swords for her, and women clamor to be like her. It girls are universally admired. If I were to try and describe what makes an it girl, it is impossible. They seem to possess a beguiling quality about them that is hard to put into words. I'll try my best though. It girls are a combination of great beauty. Oftentimes, it's not a boring, basic sort of beauty. Although I hate Edgar Allan Poe, he has a great quote that sort of explains what I'm thinking of. There is no exquisite beauty without some strangeness in the proportion. These are the girls who become muses. Muses to great musicians, fashion designers, and artists. On the surface, being a muse seems fucking cool. I mean, who wouldn't want a designer bag named after them or to be the subject to amazing music? However, there's a darker side to what it means to be a muse. I'm going to try and explore all facets of this in this episode. So, why do it girls exist, and what does it mean for our greater culture? How can there be so much fantasy and hype surrounding just one person? To find out, I want to examine my favorite it girl, Alexa Chung. You're listening to Dressher, the podcast about luxury, fashion, and the forces that influence it. There's a very specific person who is familiar with Alexa Chung. If you asked a crowd of women who were once angsty Tumblr teens if they've heard of Alexa Chung, they would stare at you and say, I fucking wish I was Alexa Chung. They're the Alexa stans. On the other hand, if you asked a crowd of women who are into wine, dogs, and The Bachelor, you'd probably get a very different response. Alexa is famous, depending on who you ask. I think this is what makes her fans even more fervent. Her fans feel like she's special because not everyone knows about her. Like she's their own special little secret. Back when blogs were huge, there were pages upon pages dedicated to writing about Alexa's style. Alexa has always said that she hated to wear anything that other women wore. She, like her fans, also has this desire not to be like other girls. It's kind of funny and sad, though, because the thing is, when you're a style icon, you get copied. The persona Alexa Chung has created is one of ease and relatability for a very specific type of fangirl. The fangirl who wants to be a little quirky, a little different. Alexa Chung was born on November 5th, 1983, in a small countryside town in England. Growing up in the country in the late 80s with two older brothers meant that she was very tomboyish. She grew up loving horses and rode them in her spare time. Vanity was very much not something she cared much about. In fact, at that time, vanity was something kind of looked down upon. Unlike today's world of selfie videos and face filters, back in the 80s, if you took a picture of yourself, you were considered a bit of a narcissist. Kind of ironic, given she eventually became an international supermodel, among other things. If you type Alexa Chung into Google, the top hits are Alexa Chung boyfriend, Alexa Chung dress, Alexa Chung ethnicity. Now, I wonder why that is a top search. You can Google her picture or visit my website, dresserpodcast.com, for the companion blog post if you're unfamiliar. But for those who can picture her, When you look at her, you see a white woman, but her last name implies East Asian. Is she married to an Asian man? No, that's not it. So she must have some Asian on her father's side. Yes, correct. Why am I doing obvious detective work? I don't know. She summed it up super well in a tweet. I'm a 3/8 Chinese, 5/8 English. A very silly fraction, less than half, more than a quarter. Alexa certainly never really discussed her Chinese heritage, and I don't really think that Chinese people can really claim her as one of their own.
Good evening and welcome to the first and maybe only racial draft here in New York City. Folks, this is for all the marbles.
The whites will take this draft. Alexa really is British through and through because she gets portrayed that way and people ultimately see her that way. I think the fact that she is very much white passing is a huge factor for her success in the fashion industry back in the early 2000s. Even just 5 years ago, you'd be very hard pressed to find mainstream media talking about the topic of race. Nobody thought that it was important to include people of color in fashion shows or in movies or anywhere in the arts and entertainment sector. I know it's kind of hard to imagine now, given that race is a primary talking point today, but seriously, back then it was so under the wraps. I guarantee everyone of color listening right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. Embracing your heritage was shameful, and being white passing like Alexa Chung was the dream, because that meant you could fit in. In today's climate, things have taken a left turn because being a little ethnic helps. You always see Kim Kardashian mentioning that she's Armenian these days because it's a little spice. Alexa Chung being a little Chinese helps her out too, no doubt. It's not everything, but it contributes to her it factor. She and people like Kim Kardashian don't have to deal with any of the real repercussions of what it means to be a person of color. Instead, their ethnic identities are a sprinkle of fun. When Alexa mentions her Asian heritage, it's always very casually thrown in, as if it's almost a throwaway comment. There's no exquisite beauty without some strangeness in the proportion. Well, I guess Alexa fits right into that. She's not your average British woman, but she's a British woman with just the right amount of strangeness. Obviously, I'm not saying ethnic people are strange. I'm just saying that in today's pop cultural world, we like a bit of strangeness because that's what's currently cool. For sure, that's a problematic statement, but don't shoot the messenger. Alexa Chung got her start in the fashion industry at the wee age of 15, which, yes, sounds young because it is young. Unfortunately, the fashion industry preys upon youth. The younger it seems, the better. That doesn't negate the fact that it's really creepy when a grown ass man asks a teenager to strip for a photo shoot, which is kind of the unglamorous side of being a model. At this point, she was doing more teen bop modeling gigs, the kind of gigs you'd be embarrassed to tell your friends about. Obviously, Alexa was not a muse at this point. I sure hope not, because she's a fucking teenager. Instead, she was essentially, to put it bluntly, a human coat hanger. I think the definition of a model has changed ever so slightly. During the pre-social media days, models were pretty much people with no personality. You stood on your mark, you followed your directions, and most importantly, you followed the rules and got the shot. Post-social media, the definition of who can be a model has widened, and you can have a personality or even an opinion if you wanted to. After a couple years of teen bop modeling, Alexa transitioned to TV presenting, where she was able to hone in on her personality. One of Alexa's biggest breaks in television was presenting as host on Britain's Channel 4's Pop World. The TV show had on musical guests each week, and the hosts had a rather irreverent way of interviewing. In one episode, Alexa and her co host have Amy Winehouse fish questions out of the bottom of a barrel.
Yes, that's right. Using the ancient art of cooperage by Pop World Master Craftsman, we have formed a barrel for you. Or a wine house.
Oh.
Do you see?
You're good.
OK, so there's questions inside the barrel, and you've got to find them.
Welcome, Miss Winehouse, to Scraping the Barrel.
A little on the nose, considering her life and mental health at that time. Just 23 during her first season, Alexa hosted each episode with a sort of blunt but very casual sense of humor. Despite the fact that she would be sitting across from some of the most well-known and famous musicians of the past century, like Paul McCartney, she was so casual about it. Like having a conversation with your best friend. I'd be shaking in my boots. Alexa has a very low baritone voice.
They're the emo ones that aren't Fall Out Boy, Funeral for a Friend, AFI, Bright Eyes, Death Cab for Cutie, Something Corporate, Story of the Year, Taking Back Sunday, or The Starting Line. They're those ones.
But contrasted to that, a very gamine body. In her early 20s, if you look up past pictures of her, you'll oftentimes see her covered up, almost going about it backwards. As a woman gets older, she often gets told to dress her age, rather wrongly. No one should tell anyone how to dress. But Alexa heeded no warning and dressed hotter as she got older, but dressed conservatively in her younger years. In her early 20s, Alexa dressed more like an older grandpa with tailored men's vests matched with masculine dark-washed jeans. I sort of noticed this behavior now thinking about it with my hotter girlfriends. Everyone's beautiful, blah, 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 but come on. Some people are just undeniably hot. They know they're hot, and they only get noticed for their hotness when we go out, as opposed to their personality, which, not a bad problem to have. But I totally get where you're coming from, and the urge to want to cover up because of it. So Alexa probably wanted to break away from her modeling persona and be known instead for her wit or for her character. How she dressed or how she looked was secondary, and it worked. She was super charming and likable on Pop World. Didn't stop men, though, from ogling at her, but I bet it helped. Through Alexa's time on TV, she began cultivating a persona. To me, she perfectly represents the girl next door trope. The girl next door is a character who is the foil to what a traditional woman is. She is down to earth and relatable. She embodies a wholesome but playful sort of femininity and is rarely portrayed as promiscuous. She attracts attention for her appearance, but is often embarrassed or annoyed by the attention she gets from others. I'd say another example besides Alexa Chung is Emma Watson.
I'm Emma Watson, and this is my bag. My friends call me the bag lady, and the reason for this is that I don't really pack light.
The bag lady. Wow, her friends sound so creative. Anyway. Now, obviously, the girl next door persona is created by the patriarchy and upholds the patriarchy. But I'm just bringing it up because, as someone who is a part of the entertainment industry, I'm sure Alexa Chung's agents saw her in a box and presented her as a specific type of trope. And us as the viewer, as a result, as much as we try to see people as three-dimensional, we often get sucked back into older heuristics because it's easier for us, and we see people as a certain way. Alexa Chung is the girl next door, for now. As I was doing research for this episode, I came across numerous articles and blog posts proclaiming that Alexa never put together a bad outfit. I don't think that's true. Anyone with a little bit of fashion sense can see that those early outfits were quite meh. They feel too commercial in a bad way. Long dangling necklaces that look like they were purchased from Forever 21, no offense, matched with cheap black nail polish. If Alexa wasn't quote unquote the ideal body type, these outfits would look horrible. Is it an outfit or is she just skinny? Perhaps this is a good thing. Maybe great style and great taste isn't something you're born with, but something you can develop over time if you want to. I think what separates Alexa Chung from all the rest is that she stuck to her guns, true to who she really is. It's easy to look on Instagram nowadays and see that one same face everywhere. Big lips, almond eyes, small nose, tan skin. It's easy to see that and become absorbed in that one narrative. But what is it that you truly find beautiful? Anyone can follow the trends and be fashionable, but that's not taste or style. Having good taste implies discernment. If you just follow the trends and accept that it's fashionable, that's not great taste or style to me. And I think Alexa gets this too. She has said, "My style is all about wearing the right thing at the wrong time. I'll happily pair a cocktail dress with flat shoes or track pants with high heels." Looking at past photos of Alexa Chung, you'll see that she's quite a little rule breaker. A men's green striped Prada sweater with thrifty jeans, for example. Mixing modern with the old, luxury with the high street. And she's not necessarily following any trends either, but instead just being herself. Another thing I sort of noticed about Alexa is that you'll often see her in contrasting outfits. She'll match super frilly and feminine blouses with a pair of very hard-hitting leather pants. She also loves the style of a little girl with flouncy dresses and overalls, but the next day you'll see her in a grandma chic outfit. It's this juxtaposition between old and young, hard and soft that I find so intriguing about Alexa's sense of style. And in terms of visual composition, it's surprisingly aesthetically pleasing when put together well. For me, Alexa grew into her signature style around the time of 2009 when she was the host for MTV's It's On with Alexa Chung in New York City. At this time, Alexa was 1 year into dating the frontman of the now very famous British pop rock band, Arctic Monkeys. Much of the artistic brawn for the Arctic Monkeys came from their lead singer, Alex Turner. Alex Turner, who is quite unusual in his own right, and seems to match that same energy of the outsider-insider that Alexa Chung has, they seem like a great couple together. Some of Alex Turner's songs tell us how he felt about her. I'm giving some light to the relationship together because it's integral to our conversation about it girls and muses. A large part of the conversation about muses revolves around how men see women. More on that idea in a few. The song Fire and Thud on their album Humbug is about Alexa. It doesn't follow the traditional format of a pop song with a verse, pre-chorus, and chorus, but it's more like a stream of consciousness. He sings, "If it's true you're gonna run away, tell me where, I'll meet you there." The there he is referring to is New York City, where Alexa was hosting her new talk show. It's On with Alexa Chung is quite an unusual talk show for an American to watch. She has a very dry sense of humor, as we saw in Pop World, and sometimes it can appear as though she's insulting her guests, who were, once again, mostly American. Here's an interview she did with then 17-year-old Selena Gomez, where they were trying out her favorite snack foods, which includes pickles, chips, Reese's, and popcorn, all eaten at the same time.
They said that you like to eat... Is it really? Is this true, or are you just wondering?
No.
Okay, so you like pickles. You like all of these. Not this is mine. Tell us how you go about eating this then. Well, you put them
Okay,
all, is it one of each in the mouth or?
I'm on set all day, so
Okay.
I love food and I like to eat.
Okay, so let's see, let's
This
do an
is what you
example of
do. You take the pickle first.
Right.
So you got it?
Is this what they
With
feed
the
you on
chip.
set then?
No. They feed
Okay,
us good food.
you order it.
So you take one bite, eat it for it, get the popcorn,
Right.
and put a Reese's in your mouth.
I feel like McDonald's just shat in my mouth. Sorry. No, yeah, that is disgusting.
Really? You got the perfect combination of sour and salt and
I
chocolate.
like salty Mars bars, look.
So awkward. The nervous laughter in the audience is killing me. After just 1 year, the show was canceled. A year later, she broke up with Alex Turner. What a shitty year. Probably shittier than Selena Gomez's favorite snack on set. So we pause a minute and revisit the question posed at the beginning of this podcast. What is an it girl? Perhaps Alex Turner has the answer. Alex lived in New York City when he and Alexa were dating. Just as Alexa released content about Alex in the form of her book, Alex released content about Alexa in the form of an album. Much of the Arctic Monkeys album, Suck It and See, is written about her. To an American audience, Suck It and See may sound quite pejorative, but it's an English statement that means something along the lines of, just try it out. The song She's Thunderstorms perfectly describes what an it girl is. An it girl can be described as
When the heat starts growing hot, she's thunderstorm.
a girl with superpowers who can dissipate heat. I mean, come on, dude. So here is where we run into the issue that a lot of feminists have with the idea of an it girl or a muse. And to analyze it, I want to talk about the Greek myth Pygmalion. Without going into too much detail about the legend and story, Pygmalion is a sculptor who falls in love with a woman he made from stone. He calls his creation Galetta. Galetta has no agency. She's made from stone. Although she does come alive at the end of the story, her whole being was crafted by someone else. Pygmalion, a man, created what he thought a woman should be. Does this sound familiar to you? Sadly, yes, this Greek myth can be applied to real life in so many situations. But since this is a podcast about luxury fashion, I'm going to talk about its application in the fashion industry. I hate that this is more often than not the case, but in the luxury fashion industry, it's all about men creating the standard for women, isn't it? So many of the largest luxury fashion houses in the world are run by men and sold to women. They don't have to wear the bone-breaking heels, Christian Louboutin, or the tight-ass dresses, Balmain, but yet they are the bearers of fashion.
Fucking bullshit, fucking bullshit.
A modern example I can think of is Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. Lovely T, another podcaster, love her. She has a really good breakdown of this, but I'm going to do a shorter version here. I want to give flowers to Kim because she is super successful, and I don't want to diminish any of her accomplishments. But we also have to acknowledge the fact that she had a lot of help on the way. Just doing the teeny weeniest little bit of research, you'll find out that there is no denying the fact that Kanye basically elevated her and her entire family from B-list celebrities to the most famous family in the world. He was the one who dressed her. Forget her glam teen or her stylists. It was all Kanye. He even had a huge hand in her fashion label, Skims. He basically designed everything in Skims, even the logo itself. Kim Kardashian, as we knew her prior to probably this year, was basically a less extreme version of that stone statue, Galetta, and Kanye was Pygmalion. The Kardashians even have an episode titled Who is Kim K? From their new Hulu series, and it makes sense. Now that they're divorced, Kim is trying to find herself without the influence of Kanye. Muses can very easily fall into a Kim K. Kanye, Pygmalion Galetta situation. And I think that's when we have to keep our eyes peeled, give people a side eye, and analyze the situation, because that's when it can get scary or wrong. But I think in the case of Alex Turner and Alexa Chung, it's not as extreme as the two examples I gave above. Alex wasn't molding Alexa to his liking, changing her in some way. He was simply using her for his own creative endeavors, which I can't be mad about because I really love. Fun fact about me, I love the Arctic Monkeys. I love Alex Turner to death. He was my very first musical obsession. So I'm coming at this with a heavy bias, but I truly do believe that they were each other's muses. Alexa for her book and Alex for his album. And that's probably the healthy way to go about being a muse. Another instance when Alexa resumed the role as a muse was with her collaborations with many brands as a guest designer. Before Alexa partnered with Mulberry, it was a brand that was having a lot of trouble differentiating itself from the competition. AKA, it was struggling. Mulberry is a relatively new luxury fashion brand. Surprisingly, it was founded in 1971. Compare that to other luxury British fashion houses like Burberry, founded in 1856, or Barbour, founded in 1894. I guess Mulberry seems a lot older to me because I've always known about it. And a big part of the appeal for luxury fashion is the heritage and history of it. So, what kind of heritage can a 50-year-old brand have, right? Well, let's explore. The name's keep was from the mulberry trees that Roger saw passed on his way to school. He's the founder of Mulberry, by the way. You could say the essence and inspiration for the brand is tied to English rural pursuits: hunting, shooting, and fishing. It's not a particularly sexy brand like how I would categorize Balmain or Calvin Klein. Living in the country isn't sexy. Trust me, I know. My parents live in the country now. Country living is honest, and it's true. At least that's what Mulberry tries to portray itself as. In other words, Mulberry is very girl next door, natural beauty type of brand. So it's kind of perfect that they would choose a country girl, girl next door, all the above, Alexa Chung, to be their muse. But of course, it's not just Alexa's heritage or her girl next door vibe that made Mulberry choose her. This is luxury fashion after all. Any old girl from the country won't do. A muse has to be desirable and, most importantly, commercially viable. In non-business terms, Mulberry needed a it girl for them to be relevant again. Because who wants to wear a brand that was founded on shooting dead animals? Mulberry's design team were taken aback by Alexa's street style. She's often pictured wearing the vintage Mulberry Elkington briefcase. So it's a combination of her style and her persona as the it girl that we've seen her cultivate over the years that got her the gig. With the example of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, an authentic style can be cultivated. You can even make millions off of it, especially when there's a muse situation going on. Authentic style, however, cannot be cultivated because it comes from within. I suppose maybe what I'm getting at here is that a muse can be categorized in two ways. Someone who is a blank canvas for an artist to draw all over is one example of what a muse can be. Or a muse is someone who is already full of color, and an artist can take inspiration from that without necessarily adding to that piece of art. Hence with Mulberry and Alexa Chung. Her smash hit bag came out in 2010. Well, that's an understatement. It was an inescapable it bag of the year. The Mulberry Alexa increased sales for Mulberry by 79% that following year, hurtling the brand back into people's consciousness. Back in 2010, large handbags were all the rage. And the primary gatekeepers to fashion advice were still the big fashion magazines. But in the up and coming digital media spaces like YouTube and blogs, everyone seemed to have an Alexa. So, what was it about this bag that made it so popular? Well, it was made of leather sourced from where else? Italy. Brass alloy zippers from Switzerland, and everything is hand constructed in 2 factories in England. But quality really isn't the appeal of luxury fashion. If you really wanted a quality bag, you could buy one for 200 bucks. I guarantee you that. The appeal of the Alexa was because everyone seemed to have one, and especially the it girl Alexa Chung had one. So you better go out and get yourself one too. I suppose you could say this practice was the precursor to influencer marketing. Sure feels that way. Moving on from the mulberry story, let's talk about jeans.
Those are cute jeans.
Your cute jeans.
Those are mine?
No,
Oh, I thought you said your cute jeans.
I did.
Those are my jeans?
No.
Then why did you
are
say...
cute jeans.
One thing that Alexa Chung is really known for is that she's all about denim. But denim is everywhere. It's ubiquitous. Everyone in fashion has put together a cute jean outfit.
Your cute jeans.
Everyone in fashion has made a pair of cute jeans. So what makes Alexa so special? I think the key to answering that question is answering a different question that can maybe frame your mind a little bit. Is it an outfit, or is she just skinny? It's similar to the idea of separating art from artist, or in the case of fashion, outfit from the body that wears it. Unpopular opinion, but I'm a firm believer that you should always separate art from artist, and subsequently outfit from the body that wears it. For example, I will always bop out to R. Kelly's music, but I understand that many people are not like that and can't separate what he's done in his life from the music that he creates. But the fact that he's a rapist and a pedophile doesn't turn me off to the fact that he is a very talented musical artist. Period. Fight me. I don't care. Maybe I'm this way because I'm the queen of compartmentalization, but I try not to read into myself too much, and you shouldn't either. Maybe I'll change my mind in the future, but this is how I feel today. Anyway, don't cancel me. I like R. Kelly, so sue me. If you're getting mad at this segment, then you are not allowed to listen to Elvis Presley, Morrissey / The Smiths, John Lennon, Johnny Cash, Miles Davis, Frank Sinatra, Chris Brown, David Bowie, Madonna. Actually, you shouldn't listen to Madonna, period. She sucks. I'm belaboring the point. All these people were horrible in their personal lives, but they made great music. Maybe learn to separate art from artist, and you can avoid being a hypocrite and save yourself a lot of emotional grief. Oh my goodness, who am I giving out this advice? I'm such a flawed 23-year-old. Don't listen to everything I say. These are just my opinions, and that's it. That was a rather fun detour. Let's go back to Alexa Chung now. Let's analyze Alexa Chung's denim outfits. There's this one paparazzi image of her walking through the streets of New York City. She's casually chatting on the phone. On her feet are these shiny, red, strappy, mock croc Mary Janes from Zara. That's a mouthful. She's wearing a medium wash pair of jeans with a black and silver belt. On top, she has a denim jacket with fur on the collar and a blue knit sweater underneath. Accessories are quite simple. A yin-yang ring from her own brand, and a small gold hoop earring, circa 2016. By this time, Alexa had the fashion world around her little finger. She could do no wrong. I bring up this outfit because there really is nothing special about this outfit. Everything is just kind of meh. Maybe it was a meh day. If someone without a model's body wore this exact same outfit, it would have garnered zero attention. But because it's Alexa Chung, it's gospel. The power of an it girl is to take ordinary, meh items and cause a mass feeding frenzy around them. That's the true power of an it girl. The partnership with AG Jeans came naturally. Unlike the Mulberry partnership, where Mulberry and Alexa Chung were British, AG Jeans is a LA-based company. Would an American audience respond well to Alexa? Well, lucky for her, the promotional campaign was image-based. British humor doesn't have to get in the way this time. Images of Alexa wearing denim, leaning against a sexy vintage convertible in an LA suburb was kind of the backdrop of the launch. The ultimate laid-back cool girl. The collection was inspired by her 90s childhood. 2015 was kind of the start of the rebirth of the 90s era of style. Remember, high-waisted jeans with button flies were slowly trickling in during that time. Heavy-weighted denim reminiscent of men's construction was also coming in as well. And this was what the collection embodied. My favorite piece from the collection is a denim dress that she wore. It just had the perfect amount of color and a very classic fit. AG and Mulberry were not the only brands that Alexa designed at. If I were to go through them all, this podcast would be, no kidding, 7 hours long. But those are two of my favorite collaborations, for sure. If you're interested in seeing more, you can visit Dressher Podcast on Instagram, and there'll be some dedicated posts for Alexa Chung. Stepping out from her role as a muse for other brands, Alexa chose to create her own eponymous brand in 2017. As someone who was and still is a very fervent fan of Alexa, it was very interesting to see her step out onto her own and see how she would package her own brand and how she would evolve over time. Crafting the Alexa Chung brand is a tricky one. Nobody likes a celebrity label. Simply taking advantage of your fans' adoration and pumping out trash, I'm looking at you, Ashley Simpson, is a no-go, especially when it comes to luxury fashion. But I do have to point out, the Alexa Chung brand isn't exactly high-end luxury either. It kind of sits in the weird in-between. Pricier than Maywell, but cheaper than Gucci. A lot pricier than Maywell, might I add. I'd say the brand represents who she really is, a farm girl from Hampshire. It feels down to earth. It has the unstyled yet styled look to it, and it's deeply inspired by music. Alexa Chung waited until she was 34 to launch her own brand, and after nearly 20 years of being someone else's muse, she finally broke out and created an identity for herself. Her first collection came out in the summer of 2017. The collection included a pink pinstripe suit, reminiscent of David Bowie, and preppy Peter Pan collared shirts. The first collection that a new fashion designer releases is very important because in just 12 pieces or so, they must convey the brand's DNA as well as what the collection stands for. To me, when I look at the first collection, the brand screams Alexa, but it also screams British. A bit on the nose, but Alexa released a raincoat, or a Mac for short. If you're from America, the word Mac might throw you off a bit. And no, it's not Kraft mac and cheese. The word is derived from the Scottish inventor Charles Mackintosh. He was experimenting with the chemical naphtha, an oily liquid byproduct of tar, and when pressed between two pieces of fabric, it created a hydrophobic surface. Due to this discovery, in 1824, the Mac raincoat was born. Mackintosh still sells raincoats today, and I just love little short tidbits of history like that, so there you go. Alexa's Mac had elements of the more traditional design, like being double-breasted, but there's also a little element of quirkiness in the design as well. Alexa's Falling collection was released in the winter of 2017 and was showcased during Paris Fashion Week. The title was Prom Gone Wrong.
Essentially, it was a way or a method of dividing the collection into its more masculine and feminine elements, and I imagine this sort of Molly Ringwald 80s teen flick utopia meets Tatler-esque sort of Liz Hurley when she was younger, or a teenage Hugh Grant or something, kind of a quite toffee British mad ball. And then these elements of local boys maybe infiltrating it and sending it awry. So some of the key pieces in this second collection that we've done are, I would say our face jumper has been an incredible hit. And then we've got some really nice tailoring in this collection, a velvet jacquard suit made in the likeness of Françoise Hardy or some kind of French Parisian singer of yesteryear. And more of our party frocks. So when we were thinking of that kind of 80s Tatler-esque nonsense, it was something quite frothy, and we've got this gingham dress, which I really love. So downstairs we've got this set up in keeping with the prom gone wrong theme. It's an actual legitimate school that we're in, and we've taken over the school hall, and we've got this sort of immersive presentation where as you walk in with the fog machines and the band playing, the girls are in the last part of setting up the hall, and it's about to become debauched. So my interests have always been around fashion, music, art, anything kind of pop culture-y. And this final iteration of my interest of that kind of aesthetic world is simply a result of really enjoying it through my collaborations with other brands, and then thinking it would be fun and freeing to start my own line so that I had some sort of autonomy on my day.
The brand revealed over 100 pieces in the collection, from shoes to jewelry to accessories. So a pretty big step up from what she unveiled the first time around. Some people might say, wait, isn't prom a strictly American event? Yes, you're correct about that. But what about the universal sentiment of it's a party? You're not supposed to have fun. Or as Alexa puts it, prom gone wrong is the moment of disaster, when something terrible happens and it happens in slow motion, or you suddenly have heightened senses or awareness. I always found it interesting that so much inspiration can be taken from the growing pains of youth. So many of our movies, music, and fashion is inspired by those times where everything seemed to matter, when every emotion felt was heightened. Alexa's third collection was titled Fantastic, after one of her favorite slogan tees. For this collection, she wanted to create something that was, quote, both timeless and timely. The timeless aspect of this collection is seen in the prints and the materials. There's a mustard corduroy suit set that is very reminiscent of the 1990s Britpop music scene. In fact, it's actually a nod to the frontman Jarvis Cocker, the most British name I can ever think of, from the British pop band Pulp. Also in the collection is a t-shirt with hardcore written 4 times over, probably a nod to Pulp's 6th album. Alexa has always been known to be a frequent karaoke goer, and a British karaoke classic is Common People by Pulp. I'm saying that the song is to white British people as the song Sweet Caroline is to white Americans. It has the power to bring together a crowd of drunks to celebrate nothing in particular but life itself. You're alive. Let's drink. Stick with me now. We're moving forward to her 4th collection. In contrast to the harder looks and Fantastic, Alexa's 4th collection was called Virginia, inspired by who other than the poet, author, intellectual Virginia Woolf. Imagine it's 1906. Your best friend Vanessa Bell just invited you for drinks at her farmhouse in the Sussex countryside. You're not really a drinker and don't care to go, but you hear that Virginia Woolf and John Maynard Keynes will be attending, so you go. When you arrive at the farmhouse, it's charming. You're surprised that there's a little pond with the most beautiful willow beside it. There's a small orchard in a walled garden. You think to yourself, this is the most beautiful summer evening. The air is fresh, and as the sun slowly sinks behind the flowers, you're handed a drink by no other than Virginia Woolf herself. this gathering of people was known as the Bloomsbury Group, a group of wealthy, highly educated scholars who mostly graduated from Cambridge University. John Maynard Keynes, a Cambridge graduate and world-renowned economist. Vanessa Bell is a painter, and of course, there is Virginia Woolf. That is the inspiration behind Alexa's fourth collection. It feels like an era long gone. It's intellectual, but not stuffy like you gotta impress on your first day at Cambridge or insert some other prestigious college university. It's not that kind of intellectual. The collection is frilly, with ruffled sleeves, ruffled necklines, and ruffled hems, nostalgic and feminine. The interesting thing about this collection is that Alexa Chung was always a guy's girl, one of the boys. Her favorite drink at the bar was a hard whiskey. She always seemed to be inspired by men. All of her collections before Virginia clearly had some aspect inspired by male musicians, but this collection was purely inspired by one woman, Virginia Woolf, and the designs show more than her others how hyper feminine Alexa can be. There is a lot of romance in the blouses and long dresses. One of the main motifs in the collection is the looking glass. The Looking Glass is an ode to Virginia's book, The Lady in the Looking Glass. Now, the expression through the looking glass was originally coined by Lewis Carroll in his 1871 sequel, Through the Looking Glass and What Alice Found There. Such a long title, but it basically means where things are not as they should be. However, in Virginia's book, the looking glass came to symbolize something else. Now, I read the short story for this podcast, and here's kind of my synopsis or my perspective on the short story. It begins with an unnamed narrator who is observing a woman, Isabella Tyson, through her drawing room, or in modern day terms, her living room, through a mirror on the wall. Hence why the title is A Woman in the Looking Glass. The narrator begins to make assumptions about Isabella. The narrator thinks that based off of all the nice things in her living room, Isabella must live a rich, happy, fulfilling life. However, when Isabella enters the room, the narrator sees her in a completely different light. The common reading of this short story is that you can never truly know somebody. Did Alexa intend to have these deeper meanings imbued into her fourth collection? Perhaps. Or maybe it's just not that deep and she just intended it to be an obvious nod to Virginia. I can tell you from my own experience that sometimes concepting and inspiration is just marketing. Through my job working at a cosmetic company, when we release seasonal collections, sometimes we back into an inspiration behind that collection. We choose all the products that we want to sell first, and then we craft a story around them secondly. So the inspiration or story really means nothing at the end of the day. We just wanted to sell you shit. So what do you think? Do you think the inspiration actually meant something for Alexa? My best guess is this. The looking glass in Virginia's book is actually another word for mirror. However, in the promo video on Alexa's YouTube page for this collection, a model is holding a long tubular looking glass device, not a mirror. One device, the mirror, is meant to look at yourself with. The other device, a looking glass, is to look outwardly at someone else. Hotel Motel was the next collection released fall-winter of 2018. Lots of velvet, lots of power suits. So interesting, and I know this is such a fangirl thing to do, but coincidentally, a couple of months earlier in the spring of 2018, Alex Turner, her famous Boothang, released an album titled Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. A very similar vibe, might I add. Read as much into or as little into that piece of information as you want. The final collection I want to go over was called Off the Grid, but Not for Long. It kind of embodies the whole idea of what would you wear if you were living in the West Coast in a post-apocalyptic world after a nuclear attack? How would you dress in a crisis? while Alexa pictures soft, messy hair, smudged makeup, and a range of very soft but hard pieces. Of the hard pieces, there is an all black vinyl coat, super matrix vibe. A softer piece is a shiny picnic dress with a floral print. The floral print has a couple of different evolutions. It is used in different colors and on different materials. Another repeating pattern is herringbone. This piece gets made into a coat, a blazer, and headscarf. Alexa said that her favorite piece from the collection was a faux fur herringbone belted jacket, and I must say, I agree. The rest of her collections released after this one don't really have a central theme, a central through line that is distinguished from all the rest. Virginia was clearly more feminine, Fantastic was more pop rock, Prom Gone Wrong was young, Hotel Motel was very high, low, and in my eyes, the collection she released in 2020 and 2021 had sort of all the same themes that those collections had, but just repackaged a little bit. In 2022, Alexa Chung announced that she was closing her brand after 5 years in operation due to pressures from the pandemic. I think that's a little bit of a cop out, to be honest, and I'll explain. The spring collection will continue to sell on e commerce until March 31st, 2022. I think the closing of her brand shows how difficult it is to craft a brand identity and to cultivate a customer base in the fashion industry. Even Alexa Chung, the ultimate it girl, couldn't exactly make things sustainable. Sure, the pandemic was bad, but e commerce across all industries had a boom, the largest sales in years. To me, I think the real downfall of her brand came because it's situated at an awkward price point and there's no clear USP. She sold things like acrylic mix sweaters for $250. Okay, totally not the first brand to do this, but then you clearly can't make quality your USP. Marketing it that way would fall apart like the acrylic sweaters you sold. No tea, no shade. But that's the truth. Dresses can range anywhere from $255 for a simple black viscose dress to a $575 Napa leather dress. The designs, although trendy and unique at first, can be found nearly everywhere. Unless you know the stories behind the collections or are a huge fan of Alexa's, you certainly wouldn't take a second look at purchasing. And after seeing the price, the decision is clear. It's unattainable for the average woman, but for the top 1% who can afford, they have so many other options. So, what is the USP here? For the longest time, it was Alexa herself. She's an it girl. Case closed. But it turns out to survive in the fashion industry, you need much more than just that. I find the two biggest struggles within the fashion industry are one, staying relevant, creating desire around the products you sell, and second, the biggest problem for a lot of fashion brands is logistics. Loewe is a brand that popped off with their iconic bucket bag back in, I believe it was 2018. I mean, it was everywhere, plastered all over social media. And they had a real desire around their brand, but were suffering from supply chain issues. They couldn't fulfill that demand, you see. But supply chain issues are fixable. What's harder to fix is creating desire. I'm a huge fan of Alexa, and to be honest, I never felt like her clothes were all that special. Sure, they look good, but not $300 good. And that's the problem that cannot be easily fixed. I will say, at least, the heart and soul of the brand remain intact as far as I can tell. No conscious decisions to cut costs or price hike throughout the 5 years she was in business. It was that way from the beginning. The prices were what they were, and they were always kind of made from that quality stuff. She kept the brand true to her own aesthetic and seemed to bake into her strategy not just commercial viability of products, but what she herself would want to wear. And I do respect that. There have been many iterations of Alexa Chung over the years. Alexa as the young, shy girl, Alexa as the teen bop model, Alexa as a high fashion model, Alexa as a presenter. But what about Alexa as a boss and businesswoman? Here's how Alexa described fun times at the office. When she was asked, "What's the water cooler conversation at Studio Chung like?" She said, "I don't think we actually have a water cooler. We have tap and mugs, though. We're more of a smoking area company." The Christmas party saw the team take a Hummer limo to a roaster in Islington pub, make a pit stop at another pub in Angel, followed by to the Ned and then the Dolphin for karaoke. It was a rager, she laughs. I never had an office party because I never had an office job, so I was really happy. We went big and didn't go home. Thank you for listening. Every episode is written and produced by me, Michelle Chang. Each episode has a full-length transcript on my website, dresserpodcast.com. Go there for the inside scoop. In addition, I also have a bibliography. Well, it's not a formal bibliography because we're not in school anymore and there's no annoying librarian breathing down my neck. It's just a list of sources I used to help research this episode. Although I already knew a ton of information about Alexa Chung, reading and refreshing my memory doesn't hurt. Since fashion is a visual medium, it can also be helpful to take a look at all the clothes that Alexa Chung made so special. It's all on my website. Take a look. You can follow the podcast on Instagram at Dressher Podcast. I'm on IG at Michelle Z. Chang. Please share this episode with a friend. Even if you aren't into fashion, I can guarantee you that someone you know will find this story interesting. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I would really appreciate it if you took a minute out of your day to write a review. Next week, we will take a look at one of my favorite brands of all time, The Vampire's Wife, and the stories behind this brand. It's a fun one. Fasten your seatbelts. Now, onto my fabric trimmings. In a world where everyone is an influencer, it cannot be understated how influential Alexa Chung is to her audience. Nowhere is it more evident than on Tumblr. There are entire pages dedicated to this woman's every move. Her image and being has been used as inspiration time and time again. If she wore a pair of shoes or a bag, it would become gospel. What is even more interesting is that to some people, Alexa Chung just sounds like some random Asian woman. But to others, she is a goddess. Why did I say it like that? I don't know. Alexa occupies that sweet spot in celebritydom. She appeals to her niche, and the rest of the time she can go about her life as a normal person. And I kind of think that's the best way to go about being a celebrity. Seth Godin, a famous marketer, once said, "You have to appeal to the smallest viable audience, a niche, and that's precisely what Alexa Chung attempted to do. And she's made a wonderful career doing it." While researching this episode, I think one of the funniest stories I came across was in 2015. She was on a night out in New York City. Leonardo DiCaprio was apparently a part of their group and kept mistaking her for a waitress because he, quote, can't really see brunettes, which is hilarious. I really am dying on the inside. And so the story goes, he spent the entire evening ordering vodka and cranberry juices from her, which she apparently obliged his requests and dutifully lined up and paid for all of his drinks. And I think this situation boils everything down to the thing I admire most about Alexa. She doesn't take things too seriously. She can have a sense of humor about a situation that most people would consider rude. Because in the end, nothing is really that